صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. حميم. تنزيل الكتاب من الله العزيز العليم. غافر الذنب وقابل التوب شديد العقاب ذي الطول. لا إله إلا هو وإليه المصير. ما يجادل في آيات الله إلا الذين كفروا فلا يغررك تقلبهم في البلاد. كذبت قبلهم قوم نوح والأحزاب من بعدهم. وهمت كل أمة برسولهم ليأخذوه وجادلوا بالباطل ليدحضوا به الحق فأخذتهم فكيف كان عقاب. وكذلك قد كلمة ربك على الذين كفروا أنهم أصحاب النار. الذين يحملون العرش ومن حوله يسبحون بحمد ربهم ويؤمنون به ويستغفرون للذين آمنوا ربنا وسعت كل شيء رحمة وعلما فاغفر للذين تابوا واتبعوا سبيلك وقهم عذاب الجحيم. ربنا وأدخلهم جنات عدن التي وعدتهم ومن سلم من آبائهم وأزواجهم وذريتهم إنك أنت العزيز الحكيم. وقهم السيئات ومن تق السيئات يومئذ فقد رحمته وذلك هو الفوز العظيم. إن الذين كفروا ينادون لمقت الله أكبر من مقتكم أنفسكم إذ تدعون إلى الإيمان فتكفرون. قالوا ربنا أمتنا اثنتين وأحييتنا اثنتين فاعترفنا بذنوبنا فهل إلى خروج من السبيل ذلكم بأنه إذا دعي الله وحده كفرتم وإن يشرك به تؤمنوا فالحكم لله العلي الكبير هو الذي يريكم آياته وينزل لكم من السماء رزقا وما يتذكر إلا من ينيب فادعوا الله مخلصين له الدين ولو كره الكافرون رفيع درجات ذو العرش يلقي الروح من أمره على من يشاء من عباده لينذر يوم التلاق صدق الله العلي العظيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة والإخلاص والصلوات
جزاك محمد وآل محمد salawat. Jazakallah. Thank you, brother Amin, as always. सलाम के लिए मैं दरख्वास्त करता हूँ जनाब शबीर अली रिजवी साहब से कि वो आएँ और मौला की बारगाह में कलाम पेश करें पर मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद सलावत। और मैं दरख्वास्त करूँगा कि जो हज़रात इस वक्त लॉबी में हैं या मस्जिद में हैं बराए करम प्लीज़ हज़रत अबू तालिब हॉल में तशरीफ़ लाएँ। मजलिस शुरू हो चुकी है। For those brothers that are outside in the lobby or in the masjid, please kindly make your way into the Hazrat Abu Talib Men's Hall. एक और सलवात अला मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद।
पर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सलावत। कहते थे आदा रुलाओ ज़ैनब को सरे हुसैन से ना दिखाओ ज़ैनब को सलामी सदाए फातिमा आई के मेरे शबीर सदाए फातिमा आई के ए मेरे शबीर, तड़प रही है गले से लगाओ ज़ैनब को, तड़प रही है गले से लगाओ ज़ैनब को सलामी। हुसैन इमाम को जिससे किया गया था शहीद, हुसैन इमाम को जिससे किया गया था शहीद, वो खून भरा हुआ खंजर दिखाओ ज़ैनब को सलामी। छुपा के बालों से मुँह को ये बोली बिनते अली, छुपा के बालों से मुँह को ये बोली बिनते अली, खुदा के वास्ते लोगों छुपाओ ज़ैनब को सलामी। कहा यजीद ने जब शिम्र से सरे दरबार, कहा यजीद ने जब शिम्र से सरे दरबार, किधर है दुख्तरे ज़हरा, बुलाओ ज़ैनब को सलामी। कहते थे आदा रुलाओ ज़ैनब को सरे हुसैन सिना पर, दिखाओ ज़ैनब सलामी सलावत।
जज़ाकल्लाह जज़ाकल्लाह। एक और सलवात अला मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद। मौला सलामत रखे। ये थे जनाब सैयद शबीर रिजवी साहब, जिन्होंने मौला की बारगाह में कलाम पेश किया। सो सलाम मरसी के लिए मैं दरख्वास्त करता हूँ जनाब शानदार नकवी साहब से कि वो आएँ और मौला की बारगाह में सो सलाम और मरसिया पेश करें। बर मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद सलावत। बारे दीगर नारे सलावत। और मैं दरख्वास्त करूँगा एक दफ़ा और कि जो हज़रात इस वक्त लॉबी में हैं या मस्जिद में, प्लीज़ बराए करम जो बाहर बाहर खड़े हैं, प्लीज़ हज़रत अबू तालिब हॉल में तशरीफ़ ले आएँ। और मजलिस, क्योंकि मजलिस सब शुरू हो चुकी है। एक और सलवात अला मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद।
शबीर के झूले को झुलाने में लगे शबीर के झूले को झुलाने में लगे जिब्रील भी पहचान बनाने में लगे ये किसके तबस्सुम ने किया है अभी हमला, ये किसके तबस्सुम ने किया है अभी हमला, सब तीरों कमा जान बचाने में लगे शबीर के सलावत। लाश पा जब हुसैन के लाश पा जब हुसैन के आए ज़ैना आफत के सुखन ला पाए लाए ज़ैना भाई न मिले गा मुझे तुम सा भाई भाई न मिले गा मुझे तुम सा भाई ढूंढेगी अगर सारी खुदाई ज़ैना सलावत। जनाब सज्जाद साहब को अहमद सज्जाद साहब का ये सलाम है कलाम है। कभी बशर सर मिम वरना बे सबब बोले कभी बशर सरे मिंबर ना बे सबब बोले जुबां पर जिक्र नबी और अली हो तब बोले कभी बशर जुबां कलम हुई जारी रही सना जुबां कलम हुई जारी रही सना फराज़दार से मीसा के चश्मला बोले कभी बशर लिसान हक़ है अली की जुबां तो लाज़िम था लिसान हक़ है अली की जुबां तो लाज़िम था खुदा भी लहज़े हैदर में किशा अली की जलती हुई जुल्फ़िकार है, अली की जलती हुई जुल्फ़िकार है कौन सामने बिनते अली के अब बोले कभी बशर यही थी मर्ज़ी माबूद बर सरे, यही थी मर्ज़ी माबूद बर सरे, अली के लहजे में इस वक्त ज़ैन अब बोले कभी बशर हसन हुसैन की सीरत से मिल रहा, हसन हुसैन की सीरत से मिल रहा, कहाँ खामोश रहा जाए और बोले कभी बशर अज़ाए शाह को बिदअत बता रहे, अज़ाए शाह को बिदअत बता रहे, ये इनका खून नजिस और हसब नजा बोले कभी बशर उसे तलब से सिवा करते हैं अता कि इसके पहले कोई साहिबे तलब बोले कभी बशर सर सलावत फातिहा। शोर है शाम में आजल हरम छुड़ते शोर है शाम में आजल हरम छुड़ते बेकसो बेवतनो खस्ताए तन छुड़ते कैदियों पर किया हाकिम ने करम छुड़ते हैं। आओ ऐ यारो हसी राने सितम छुड़ते हैं। आते तो देख चुके जाते भी उनको देखो। दर जिंदा पतमा दर जिंदा पतमा शेको खड़े हो देखो। शोर है शाम में आजल हरम छुड़ते। हुक्म है कैदियों को इज़्न रिहाई का। और जो लूटा है और जो लूटा है बेवों का साला बेड़ियां पाँव से बीमार के भी कटवा दो। और इन्हें राह लाए ज़ादे सफर दिल जा बजा जबकि रिहाई की खबर जा पहुंचे। दर जिंदा पहरे खल्क़े खुदा पहुंची। शोर है शाम में आजल हरम छुड़ते। दर जिंदा बदरा ता खड़ी थी खल्क़े खुदा। और लोग चौकी के उठे कुफल खुला जिंदा का। और नकीबों ने असीरों से ये चिल्ला के कहा उठो क्या बैठे हो उठो क्या बैठे हो। अब हमने किया तुमको जल्द दरबार में हाजिर हो निकल कर हाकिमे शाम को हाकिमे शाम को मुजरा करो चल कर यकबयक ये जो सदा कान में सबके पहुंची। बच्चे गोदी में लिए खाक से उठे कैदी। खौफ से छा गई मासूमों के मुंह पर जर्दी। सहम कर कहने लगे सहम कर कहने लगे हमको छिपाओ जल्दी। फौज कातिल के सिता गार नजर आते खौफ के मारे जिगर जिगर आब हुए जाते हैं। शोर है शाम में, आज अहले हरम छुट हमको नज़दीक ना इनके लिए जाओ हमको ये मारने, हमको ये मारने आए हैं। बचाओ हमको इन लोगों की सूरत न दिखाओ। हमको तुम अपने पसे, हमको तुम अपने पसे पुश्त चबाओ। मुँह पा हम बच्चों के जुल्म इनके यहाँ है आता। देखो नी तमा, देखो ये नी तमा चौके निशान है। शोर है शाम में, आज अहले हरम छोड़ हम तो भूले नहीं जोरों से तमिल गालिमों के याद हैं छीने थे, याद हैं छीने थे। जिस तरह कड़े हाथों अब तलक दुखते हैं, वल्लाह हमारे पहुँचे हंसलियाँ खींची थी, हंसलियाँ खींची थी। ऐसे के गले चिर गए थे, सीने आहिस्ता इन्होंने न हमारे दे कान जख्मी हुए, कान जख्मी हुए। इस तरह उतारे बूंदे, शोर है शाम में। सलावत।
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Tonight is the third in this series of 5 majalis in which we commemorate Arba'een, or the 40th day after the martyrdom of Sayyid al-Shuhada, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salatu wa salam. Salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The sponsors for tonight's program are the families of Dr. and Mrs. Asad Sadiq, Dr. and Mrs. Aziz Sadiq, Dr. and Mrs. Zaki Sadiq, as well as Samira Akhlaq. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept their a'mal in these holy nights of commemoration. We remember their marhumeen, your marhumeen, and the marhumeen of all mu'mineen and mu'minat, including Sayyid Sadiq, Sughra Sadiq, Ali Sadiq, Asghar Hadi Sadiq, Allama Zishan Haider Jawadi, Maulana Tilmiz Hasnain Rizvi, Maulana Asad Jafri, Shahnaz Begum, as well as Razia Abdul Karim Binte Abdul Rasul Ali Dina, who passed away today, the sister of Brother Murtaza Ali Dina. We offer our sincere condolences to you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless the family with patience and bless her and all of the marhumin in the deepest ranks of paradise. Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Iyaka na'budu. In these holy nights, we also remember those who are in need of dua for their health, safety, and protection in all areas of the world. We remember our brothers and sisters in Palestine. We remember our own Sayyid Mahdi Shah, who's in need of du'as for his health. We remember them all by reciting verse number 62 of Surah An-Naml together 5 times. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ 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 وَيَجْعَلُكُمْ خُلَفَاءَ الْأَرْضِ أإله مع الله قليلا ما تذكرون صلوات على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد. Mu'mineen, this Arba'in series continues through the weekend. Keep in mind Sunday being the day of Arba'in. The day of Arba'in will be a day program with Salat al-Dhuhrain. There's going to be A'mal and Ziyarat of Arba'in as well. We look forward to your participation this weekend. The Al-Mahdi workshops started tonight for kids 11 and under, including moms and toddlers. This is going to be tomorrow as well, 8:45, which is after Maghrib until the end of the program. For those who have kids with special needs, there are accommodations for you as well in tomorrow's Al-Mahdi workshop. Registration is required. You can see us at the desk and we'll give you more information. Just a reminder from the past few nights, upcoming programs. Inshallah, beginning of September 1st to 3rd, we will be commemorating the wafat of none other than our Holy Prophet Muhammad al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. As well as our second holy Imam, Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salatu wa salam. Salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. This will be recited by Sayyid Suleiman Abidi. This is September 1st to September 3rd. Middle of September, 14th and 15th, Mizan Institute will be holding a workshop titled The Hour, Resurrection Day, Part 1. This is based off the works of Allama Tabatabai, and this is taught by Sheikh Amin Rastani. Absolutely enlightening workshops. Do not miss this opportunity. You can register mizaninstitute.org/Masjid-e-Ali, or you can see me for more information. Again, that's the 14th and 15th of September. Lastly, at the end of September, September 21st, we are going to be hosting Prophet Day. The title of the event is Legacy of the Prophet. This event is in honor of the wiladat of our Holy Prophet Muhammad al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The speakers are Maulana Syed Bilal Rizvi, Imam Jawad Ahmad, Chaplain Kaiser Aslam, as well as our keynote speaker, Maulana Sayyid Mustafa Al-Khazwini. We look forward to your participation. Again, September 21st. Finally, just a friendly reminder, our school registrations are open. Our Sunday school, Jafariya School, is going to begin September 15th. Registrations are open. Our full-time school, the Sadiq School, Monday through Friday, those registrations are open as well. Preschool to grade 4 is for the full-time school, Sadiq School, and for Jafariya School, pre-K to grade 11. Mu'mineen, at this time, I request that your cell phones are silenced. Parents, please ensure that children are seated next to you throughout the duration of the majlis. And I request that you move forward closer to the mimbar as I request our respected guest scholar, Syed Bilal Rizvi, to address tonight's majlis titled, A Guide to Ayat al-Tathir, Refuting Common Objections Made Against Shias. Welcome him with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على إمام القبلتين ونبي الحرمين وأفضل الثقلين وجد الحسن والحسين الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الصادقين والذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على صاحب الدعوة النبوية والسولة الحيدرية والاسمة الفاطمية والحلم الحسنية والشجاعة الحسينية والعبادة السجادية والمآثر الباقرية والآثار الجعفرية والعلوم الكاذمية والحجج الردوية والجود التقوية والنقابة النقوية والهيبة العسكرية والغيبة الإلهية. اللهم عجل فرجه وسهل مخرجه. أما بعد فقد قال الله في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا نساء النبي لستن كأحد من النساء فلا إن اتقيتن فلا تخدعن بالقول وقلن فيطمع الذي في قلبه مرض وقلن قولا معروفا وقرن في بيوتكن ولا تبرجن تبرج الجاهلية الأولى وأقمنا الصلاة وآتينا الزكاة وأطعنا الله ورسوله إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم رجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. For the love of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the love of Fatima Zahra, salamullahi alayha, a second salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. To give our condolences to the Imam of our time as we approach the Arba'een of his grandfather, a louder salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Ayat al-Tathir, or Surah Al-Ahzab, chapter 33, verse number 33, is amongst the most well-known verses amongst the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And it's a verse which plays a key role within our devotional lives. As in, if I were to ask you the question that is there any verse of the Quran that you gather together, whether it's an occasion of happiness or sadness, and you listen to the occasion of the revelation of that verse, you'll say that besides Ayat al-Tathir, there is no such verse. When we listen to Hadithul Kisa, what is Hadithul Kisa? Hadithul Kisa is the Sha'nun Nuzul, or the reason of the revelation of the verse. Besides Ayatul Tathir, there is no other verse that we get together as a community and we listen to the occasion of the revelation of that verse. At a second level, you find that this verse has another significance as well. And that significance is that whenever anyone asks that what is the position of Ahlul Bayt within the Quran, especially if they are a non-Shia, you find that the most quoted verse that we give towards them is Ayatul Tathir. That when you look at this ayah, over here Allah, He mentions Ahlul Bayt, and He mentions that impurities were kept away from Ahlul Bayt. But you find the reality is this, is that oftentimes when we quote Ayatul Tathir, we expect that the opposing party will accept and say, yes, This is the position of Ahlul Bayt. But more often than not, they come back with a number of different replies. For example, they'll say that when you look at the context of this verse, the context of this verse is about the wives of the Prophet and not the family of the Prophet in the form of his children, in the form of Ali and Fatima, as you say, in the form of Hassan and Hussein. Or they'll say that this verse is simply saying that be pure. It is not saying that God has given them some special form of purity. You see, when these objections are brought up about Ayat al-Tathir, many of us, we think that how can we reply to them? But in reality, the primary question that we need to ask ourselves before that is that what relationship and understanding do we have with the Book of Allah? You know, when we look at the journey of Imam al-Hussein, from Medina to Karbala, we find that Imam al-Hussein would quote verse after verse linking his movement with the Quran. For example, the Imam, he leaves Medina on the 28th of Rajab. He recites Surah Al-Qasas, chapter 28, verse 21, فَخَرَجَ مِنْهَا خَائِفًا يَتَرَقَّبُ قَالَ رَبِّ نَجِّنِي مِنَ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ. That he recites the verse quoting how Musa had left from the land of Pharaoh, that he left in a state of vigilance and fear. And Musa, he said, "O my Lord, save me from the transgressing people." In the same way, when Imam al-Hussein on the 3rd of Sha'ban, he reaches the land of Makkah, again he recites an ayat of the Quran. He recites Surah Al-Qasas, chapter 28, verse 22. وَلَمَّا تَوَجَّهَ تِلْقَاءَ مَدْيَنَ قَالَ عَسَى رَبِّي أَن يَهْدِيَنِي سَوَاءَ السَّبِيلِ. That when he was approaching Madain, he said, perhaps my Lord will guide me. But amongst the best examples of Imam al-Hussein's relationship with the Quran is the night before Ashura. You know, in the Maqatil it's mentioned that on the night before Ashura, the army of Umar ibn Sa'ad, they approached the tents of Ahlul Bayt. And Imam al-Hussein, he said, "Oh Abbas, go and see what they want." And Aba Fadl Abbas, he goes with 20 individuals, and he comes back and he says to the Imam that they want to attack. The Imam says, "Oh Abbas, if you are able to hold them off until the morning, do so. لَعَلَّنَا نُصَلِّي لِرَبِّنَا اللَّيْلَ وَنَدْعُوهُ وَنَسْتَغْفِرُهُ فَهُوَ يَعْلَمُ أَنِّي قَدْ أُحِبُّ تِلَاوَةَ كِتَابِهِ وَالصَّلَاةَ لَهُ وَكَثْرَةَ الدُّعَاء وَالْإِسْتِغْفَارِ." The Imam, he says that, "Oh Abbas, if you were able to delay them until the morning, do so. Because upon this night, I want to pray salat, I want to make dua, I want to make istighfar, and Allah knows that I love to make istighfar and dua in abundance. I love the act of prayer, and I love the recitation of the Quran." That's why on the day of Ashura, time and time again, Imam al-Hussein would be seen reciting the Quran. That when Ali Akbar was martyred, the Imam recites Surah Al-Imran, chapter 3, verse 33. إِنَّ اللَّهَ إِسْتَفَى آدَمَ وَنُوحًا وَآلَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَآلَ إِمْرَانَ عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ. That Allah has chosen Adam and Nuh and the family of Ibrahim and Imran over everyone else. No, another narration, which is found in the Manaqib of Ibn Sharashub, it says that whenever any of the companions of Imam al-Hussein would go to the battlefield, the Imam would recite chapter 33, verse 23. مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ رِجَالٌ صَدَقُوا مَا عَاهَدَ اللَّهَ عَلَيْهِ. That from amongst the believers are men who were truthful to their covenants before Allah. فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ قَضَى نَهْبَهُ. From them are those who have fulfilled that covenant, they have passed away. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَنْتَظِرْ وَمَا بَدَّلُوا تَبْدِيلًا. And from amongst them are those who are waiting and they do not change in the least. You see, when Imam al-Hussein is reciting ayat and after ayat of the Quran, he is emphasizing that I am the one who is the walking Quran. I am the one who is alongside the Quran. And indeed, one of the ways in which we can build our relationship with the Book of Allah is by understanding the position of Ahlul Bayt within the Quran. And that's why the subject of analysis tonight, based upon the introduction, is that we'll examine Ayat al-Tathir and we'll refute the common misconceptions that are often brought up about this verse, which mentions the Ahlul Bayt of Rasulullah, and we'll do so in the following manners. Number one, why does the context of this verse mention the wives of the Prophet, and how do we reply to those who say that this ayat is about the wives of Rasulullah? Number two, did the wives of Rasulullah demonstrate loyalty to the command of Allah within this context that surrounds Ayat al-Tathir? Number three, why does the word innama show that there is a change in perspective within this verse? Number four, is the will of Allah within this verse a legislative will, or is it a will in Sharia, meaning that Allah is saying, be pure, O Ahlul Bayt? Number five, what are the different opinions in the Muslim Ummah about whom the Ahlul Bayt are? Number six, who was Ikrama and why was he pivotal in spreading the view that this verse is only about the wives of Rasulullah? Number six, what is the rijs and what does the Quran say about the concept of rijs? And at the seventh level, we'll examine how did Imam Zainul Abidin use the Quran to dispel misconceptions about Ahlul Bayt in Damascus, in Sham, after salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Indeed, when it comes to Ayat al-Tathir, the first point that we need to note about this verse is oftentimes when we say Ayat al-Tathir, we imagine that it is a complete verse. But rather, Ayat al-Tathir is a portion of a verse. And more specifically, it is the final portion of chapter 33, verse 33. And it occurs in a particular context within the Quran that requires us to look at the verse before it, chapter 33, verse 32, and the verse after it, chapter 33, verse 34. Within these verses, Allah, He addresses the wives of Rasulullah, and He says, Ya nisa an-nabi lastunna ka ahadim min an-nisa. That, O wives of the Prophet, you are not like any other women. In ittaqaytunna fala takhda'na bil qawl. If you are pious, then do not be soft in your speech. فَيَطْمَعَ الَّذِي فِي قَلْبِهِ مَرَضٌ. So those individuals who have sickness within their heart, they can have desire towards you. وَقُلْنَا قَوْلًا مَعْرُوفًا. And speak to them in a straightforward way. After that, we come to chapter 33, verse 33. It says, وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ. Stay within your homes. وَلَا تَبَرَّجْنَ تَبَرُّجَ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ الْأُولَى. And do not display your fineries in the way that they used to in the time of ignorance. وَأَقِمْنَا الصَّلَاةِ وَآتِينَا الزَّكَاةِ وَأَطِعْنَا اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ. Establish prayer, give charity, obey Allah and His Prophet. And after saying all of that, then Allah, He says, إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمْ رِجْسَ أَهْلِ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. That indeed Allah desires to keep all impurities away from you, O Ahlul Bayt, and purify you. And then after that, when it mentions this in the next ayat, 33, 34, it says what? It says, وَاذْكُرْنَا مَا يُتْلَى فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ. And remember that which was recited within your houses, min ayat Allah wal hikmah, from the signs of Allah and His wisdom. Inna Allaha kana latifan khabira. And indeed Allah is subtle and all aware. So when we look at what we call Ayat al-Tathir, before it is about the wives of Rasulullah. After it is about the wives of Rasulullah. So the question is then when the non-Shia, he comes and he says that when you say this ayat is about Ahlul Bayt, do they have a legitimate claim when they say this? Because before it is about the wives. After it is about the wives. You find that there are a number of issues with that viewpoint, and there's a number of replies that we can give. You know, the first reply we can give is that when you look at the style of the Quran is such a style that it often changes subjects. It shifts gears. And this is a method which allows somebody to remember something. In the speech, if for 50 minutes I'm speaking about Ayat al-Tathir, then for 2 minutes I begin to speak about the Brooklyn Nets, for example, or the New York Knicks, for example, you'll forget that 48 minutes, but you'll remember that 2 minutes. And the reason you'll remember that 2 minutes is because it's such a change in subject. So you find when you look at the Quran does this in a number of places. For example, when you go to Surah Al-Qiyamah, chapter 75, and you look at verses 6 through 15, they are about the Day of Judgment. That وَيَسْأَلُ أَيَّانَ يَوْمُ الْقِيَامَةِ, that he asks when is the Day of Judgment. And it says, فَإِذَا بَرِقَ الْبَصَرُ, when the eyes, they become dazzled. وَخَسَفَ الْقَمَرُ, and the moon, it becomes eclipsed. وَجُمِعَ الشَّمْسُ وَالْقَمَرُ, and the sun and the moon, they come together. And all of these different verses, they continue, and they're speaking about the Day of Judgment. But then when you come to verses 16 through 19, they are speaking about the Quran. Over there it says, وَلَا تُحَرِّكْ بِهِ لِسَانَكَ لِتَعْجِلَ بِهِ إِنَّ عَلَيْنَا جَمْعَهُ وَقُرْآنَهُ, that, O Prophet, do not hasten when this Quran is recited. The collection and the recitation of the Quran are upon us. فَإِذَا قَرَأْنَاهُ فَاتَّبِعْ قُرْآنَهُ, and when we have recited it, follow that recitation. ثُمَّ إِنَّ عَلَيْنَا بَيَانًا, after that we will explain it to you. So you find 6 through 15 are about the Day of Judgment. Now 16 through 19 are about the Quran. But when you come to verse 20 of chapter 75 is about the Day of Judgment once again. Over there it says, كَلَّا بَلْ تُحِبُّونَ الْآجِلَ وَتَذَرُونَ الْآخِرَةَ, that there's a group of individuals, they prefer this world, they forget the hereafter. وَجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاظِرَةٌ, that upon that day their faces will be luminous. So you see over here, the Quran in a number of places shows that the context can switch. So you find this is the first reply. The second reply to those who say that Ayat al-Tathir is about the wives of the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt don't fit within that context, is that just because a verse is mentioned alongside another verse, it does not mean that they are on the same theme necessarily, nor that they were revealed together. Oftentimes in the Quran, there are verses that were revealed in Mecca next to verses that were revealed in Medina, and vice versa. So you find this is the second reply. The third reply that you give is that when is context relevant? Context is relevant when there is a common thread. For example, if I'm giving a speech and I say, fear Allah, do not steal. Fear Allah, do not backbite. The common thread is to fear Allah. But this does not mean that stealing and backbiting are linked to each other. For one to happen, the other needs to happen. You can't make that conclusion. So that aspect which is common is what's important in context. This is the third point. The fourth point about this verse is that when you look at this ayat, at the beginning, what is the grammatical tense? The grammatical tense is addressed towards the female, towards the feminine. Listen to the verse. The verse says, Ya nisa an-nabi, lastunna ka ahad min an-nisa, in ittaqaytunna. This tunna at the end symbolizes a plural feminine. In this manner, it continues. Aqimna salat. Over here, this noon is for feminine. Wa atina zakat. Give charity. Wa ati'na Allah wa rasulah. But when it comes to the portion that we know as Ayat al-Tathir, it says, إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمْ. It does not say ankunna. Over here, it shifts towards the masculine. So you find the Quran is showing over here that there is a difference in attention that the book of Allah is giving. So you find this is the next point. The fifth point in regards to this, when you see this change that is occurring, is that if you take this portion out, you take this portion, إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ out, you find before it is about the wives of the Prophet, and after it is about the wives of the Prophet in a continuous manner. You know, before the portion we know as Ayat al-Tathir, it says what? It says, أَقِمْنَا الصَّلَاةِ وَآتِينَا الزَّكَاةِ وَأَطِعْنَا اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ. Establish prayer, give charity, obey Allah and His Prophet. Then Ayat al-Tathir comes. Then after that it says, وَذْكُرْنَا مَا يُتْلَى فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ. Remember what was within your homes. So if we remove that portion out, there's continuation. So it shows that this portion is about somebody else. Now over here, we come to a second point. The second point is this, is that when you look at this verse, the portion that we call Ayat al-Tathir, it begins with the word innama. You know, the word innama in Arabic, it has two qualities. Number one, it is definitive. And number two, it restricts. When it says only Allah desires to keep impurity away from you, O Ahlul Bayt, this act is only for Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. And when it is saying this over here, everything before it becomes irrelevant. Why? Because this innama is symbolizing that there is a new section within this verse. You know, everything before innama is conditional. And it's conditional in the form that it says, in it taqaytunna. That, O wives of the Prophet, if you are pious, do A, B, C, D, E, do all of these different things. But after innama, it is saying that Allah will definitively keep impurities away. So in the first portion, there is a condition. And in the second portion, Allah is saying definitely. So this shows there are two different groups which are being addressed. But over here, there's one more important question. That is there anyone in the Muslim Ummah who practically says that the wives of Rasulullah are ma'soom? If you are saying that Ayat al-Tathir is about the wives of Rasulullah, show me a Muslim who says that the wives of Rasulullah are infallible and ma'soom. No, the Muslims have examples in history that when one of the wives of Rasulullah stands against the caliph of that time, afterwards they say that she did tawbah. Tawbah symbolizes that a mistake was made. And then afterwards she does tawbah over there. So even here, all of the Muslims, they recognize that amongst the wives of Rasulullah, there are different statuses amongst the wives of Rasulullah. You know, there is a hadith in Bukhari, and this hadith on sunnah.com is hadith number 7424, 7424. And in Bukhari, it comes in Kitab al-Tawheed, and it's narrated from Aisha, the wife of the Prophet, that ma ghirtu ala imra'atin ma ghirtu ala Khadija. That I was never jealous of a woman in the way that I was jealous about Khadija. Why? وَلَقَدْ أَمَرَهُ رَبُّهُ. Because Allah commanded the Prophet أَن يُبَشِّرَهَا بِبَيْتٍ فِي الْجَنَّةِ. That Allah had commanded the Prophet that give her glad tidings that she will have a house in paradise. When this wife of Rasulullah over here is saying that I am jealous that Allah gave a status to Khadija, what this goes to show is that the wives of Rasulullah are in different levels, because there is a status that was given to one wife which was not necessarily given towards others. And in this regard, when this ayat in its context, it is saying that, O wives of the Prophet, stay within your homes, do all of these different things. If you are going to make the claim that Ayat al-Tathir is about the wives of Rasulullah, then historically they should have stayed within their homes. And historically, all of them should have followed all of these different commands. But you find even the Muslim Ummah acknowledges that this is something which didn't always happen. So you find this fine point is found within the word innama. But over here, the next question that we ask is that then why is it that they say this verse is about the wives or includes the wives? You know, the reason they say that is because in this verse they say that the irada of Allah is tashri'i, not taqweeni. And I'll simplify what that means. You know what that means? It's one thing that we say it is the order of Allah for mankind to die. When we say it is the will of Allah for man to die, is there anyone who can oppose that will? No, there is no one that can oppose that will. There is one type of will that no one can oppose. That will is taqweeni, it's in creation. It is that will about which the Quran, chapter 36, verse 82, Surah Yasin, it says, إِنَّمَا أَمْرُهُ إِذَا أَرَادَ شَيْئًا أَن يَقُولَ لَهُ كُن فَيَكُونَ. That when Allah wills a matter, He says to it be, and it becomes. But then there is another type of will. Another type of will is that Allah wills for you to pray. And Allah wills for you to be a good person. This type of will, Allah has given us the free will to oppose it. Yes, if we oppose it, there will be consequences. But at the same time, this type of will is a will in legislation. So those individuals from outside of the school of Ahlul Bayt, they say that this ayat is no fadila for Ahlul Bayt. Why? Because the will in this ayat is of the second type. That in other words, what Allah is saying is that, oh Ahlul Bayt, Allah wants you to be pure. And Allah wants you to act in this manner because you are Ahlul Bayt. Allah did not keep impurities away from you. Now, what is the issue with this? The issue with this is that, is this command restricted just to Ahlul Bayt, or is this command for everyone? When you look in the Quran, it demonstrates that Allah wants all of mankind to be pure. If we are saying that this is a legislative command, that this command, Allah is saying that, oh Ahlul Bayt, I want you to be pure, to stay away from sins. If you take that opinion, the word innama puts you in a big problem. And it puts you in a big problem in the sense, then that means the act of being pure and staying away from sin is only for Ahlul Bayt and no one else. Because the word innama is restricting the act of rids coming towards them. So you find in this manner, when Allah, He says that innama yuridullah liyudhiba ankum ridsa ahlil bayt wa yutahhirakum tathira. That when Allah, He says that we have kept impurities away from you, O Ahlul Bayt, this is a command in creation. This is a command that cannot be opposed in that sense. And in this regard, the next question that comes up, if we have established that the context of this portion is different from the portion that precedes it, and if we have established that Allah is keeping impurities away from them, the key question then comes up is that who is Ahlul Bayt within this ayat? And in this regard, we find that there are a number of different opinions in the Muslim Ummah. For example, one group said that it is for 5 individuals in the time of Rasulullah, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Fatimatu Zahra, Imam al-Hasan, and Imam al-Hussein alayhim as-salam. Then a second group came forth. They said it is for these 5 and the wives of Rasulullah. A third group came forth and said it is only for the wives of Rasulullah. A fourth group came forth and it said it is for Ahlul Bayt in the general sense. You say, what do you mean Ahlul Bayt in the general sense? There is a hadith which is found in Sahih al-Muslim that Zayd ibn Arqam, he says, O Rasulullah, are the wives considered part of your Ahlul Bayt? Rasulullah says, no, they are not, because a wife can be divorced. She comes in the house and she can leave the house. But Ahlul Bayt are those upon whom sadaqah is haram. So in Sahih al-Muslim, Zayd ibn Arqam, he says, who are these Ahlul Bayt? They say these Ahlul Bayt are the children, the Al of Ali, and the children of Ja'far, and the children of Aqil, and the children of Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet. So you find some said it meant Ahlul Bayt in the general sense. Now, amongst all of these different opinions, the question is that what evidence do we have that it is for 5 individuals And what evidence have different groups brought forth for their own viewpoint? You know, when it comes to the first opinion, that this ayat in that time was for Amir al-Mu'mineen, Fatima al-Zahra, Imam al-Hassan, Imam al-Hussein, Rasulullah. You find in this regard, when we look at the works of narrations amongst the Muslims, whether it is Sahih al-Muslim, whether it is the book of at-Tirmidhi, whether it is the book of an-Nasai, whether it is the Musnad of Ahmad ibn Hanbal, whether it is the Musnad of Ibn Barraz, whether it is the Mustadrak of Hakim, all of them, they mention one narration. And they mention a narration that Rasulullah was there with four other individuals. You know, one of those narrations is found in Sahih al-Muslim. In Sahih al-Muslim, in the Kitab of the Fadail of the Sahaba, the book about the virtues of the companions, in the section which is titled Babu Fadaili Ahl Bayt al-Nabi, the chapter of the virtues of the Ahlul Bayt of Rasulullah, on sunnah.com, hadith number 2424, over there it is stated that Aisha narrates. And the exact words of the narration are this: خَرَجَ النَّبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ وَسَلَّمَ عَلَى حَدِّ تَعْبِيرِهِمْ, their expression. That the Prophet, he comes out ghadatan in the morning. In the morning time, Rasulullah, he comes out. وَعَلَيْهِ مِرْطٌ مُرَاحَلٌ مِنْ شَعْرٍ أَسْوَدٍ. He had with him a striped cloak which was made of black camel hair. After that it says, فَجَاءَ الْحَسَنِ ibn عَلِيٍّ فَأَدْخَلَهُ. At that moment, Hassan comes, the Rasulullah takes Imam al-Hassan underneath the cloak. ثُمَّ جَاءَ الْحُسَيْنِ فَدَخَلَ مَعَهُ. After that, Imam al-Hussein comes, Rasulullah takes him underneath the cloak. ثُمَّ جَاءَتْ فَاطِمَةَ فَأَدْخَلَهَا. After that, Fatima al-Zahra comes, Rasulullah brings her underneath the cloak. ثُمَّ جَاءَ عَلِيٌّ فَأَدْخَلَهُ. Then Amir al-Mu'mineen comes, he brings him underneath the cloak. And then after that, Rasulullah says, ثُمَّ قَالْ إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمْ رِجْسَ أَهْلِ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. That Allah wills to keep all impurities away from you, O Ahlul Bayt. This narration in Sahih al-Muslim, it's mentioning over here that 5 individuals came, Rasulullah puts the cloak upon them, and then after that he recites this ayat of the Quran. You know, when we look at this narration, we find that there are at least 12 different companions who have narrated this incident from Rasulullah. For example, Aisha narrates this from Rasulullah. Salama narrates this from Rasulullah. Ibn Abbas narrates this from Rasulullah. Abu Darda narrates this from Rasulullah. Anas ibn Malik, Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari. In this manner, you find that there are at least 12 different companions who narrate this incident from Rasulullah. You know, on top of that, the next question that comes up then is that if we have all of these narrations found in all of these different books, and we have all of these different companions saying that it was 5 individuals, how do we know that it was only about these 5 and not Ahlul Bayt in the wider sense? I said one of the opinions is that there are certain Muslims who said that when Ayat al-Tathir came, it referred to the children of Ali, the children of Ja'far, the children of Aqil, and the children of Abbas. The reason we know this is that in many narrations, when Rasulullah, he gathers those 5 underneath the cloak, he says, Allahumma ha'ulai ahlu bayti. That, oh Allah, these are my Ahlul Bayt. You know, if we didn't understand this fact, there are many individuals who could have said, Rasulullah, this is obvious, these are your Ahlul Bayt. But when Rasulullah, he says this, Rasulullah is emphasizing this point, meaning he was aware that there will be individuals who dispute whom this Ahlul Bayt are. And when he was aware of this, he says, Allahumma ha'ulai ahlu bayti, that if I have ahlul bayt, it is referring towards these individuals. So now we see that these five and not anyone else. But over here, the question that still remains is that there's a large group of Muslims that say that when you look at this ayat, right, it shifts from the feminine to the masculine. In Arabic, in the plural, when you have males and females, you'll use the masculine. So the question is that why can it not just be Ahlul Bayt and the wives of Rasulullah? You know, aside from the points that I mentioned at the beginning of the lecture, when you look at the source of this opinion, you find that the source of this opinion is one individual. And that individual, his name was what? His name was Ibn Muzahim. This individual, by the name of Ibn Muzahim, he is the only person that traces this opinion of it being about Ahlul Bayt and the wives of Rasulullah. You know, this person, Ibn al-Jawzi, who has a very famous tafsir, and within that tafsir, he says what? He says that this individual said that this portion of the verse is for the wives of Rasulullah and the Ahlul Bayt. But you know, the same individual, Ibn al-Jawzi, he writes a book about those who were weak narrators from Rasulullah. And when he wrote that book called Kitab al-Du'afa, he mentions Ibn Muzahim as a weak narrator. That on one side, when you want to lower Ahlul Bayt, you take the opinion of that individual. But when you want to be academic and you want to be critical, you say that this individual is an individual who is weak, that we cannot rely upon him when it comes to narrating from Rasulullah. So you find that it comes to one individual. But when you look at the final opinion, which says that it is only for the wives of Rasulullah and no one else, you find that the issue becomes even more problematic. Why? Because once again, that opinion, it goes to one person. And that person is Ikrama, the servant of Ibn Abbas. You know who this Ikrama was? Ad-Dahabi, who is a very famous scholar, he says about Ikrama, Kana ta'inan fil Islam. That this individual, he would criticize, he would attack Islam. And then he says that one day, it's mentioned in his biography, that he was at the door, he was at the entrance of Masjid-e-Ali. And as he's looking inside the mosque, he says, Ma fihi illa kafir, that there is no one within this mosque except for a person who is a kafir. When you look at all of the narrations that say that this opinion, that Ayat al-Tathir is only for the wives and not the immediate family of Rasulullah, all of them, they go back to Ikrama. You know, it's mentioned by Ibn Kathir that this Ikrama, he would be in the marketplace, and as he's in the marketplace, he would yell that Ayat al-Tathir is only for the wives of Rasulullah. And you know, Ibn Kathir, he actually quotes his exact words. You know what he would say? He would say, Man sha'a, that whoever wants, bahaltuhu, annaha nazalat fi nisa'in nabi. He says, whoever wants, I will engage in a mubahala with them, that this verse was revealed only about the wives of Rasulullah. In other words, he is saying that if I am wrong about this, then may the curse of Allah be upon me. But you find this individual, when you look at his biography, as I quoted earlier, this individual was a questionable individual. And to the extent you find that he was one of the Khawarij, you know, certain individuals, when they want to defend this man, the argument they give is that he is quoted from in Bukhari. You know, when you look at Sahih al-Bukhari, there are a number of Khawarij that Imam al-Bukhari, he narrates from. When it comes to Imam Zainul Abidin, when it comes to Imam al-Baqir, when it comes to Imam al-Sadiq, you find that there are narrations which may be lacking. But when it comes to certain Khawarij, there are narrations in the plenty. You know, one of those individuals that Bukhari, he narrates from, is an individual by the name of Imran ibn al-Hittan. Imran ibn Hittan was an individual who has a line of poetry. Now you may say that this line of poetry, is it in the praise of Rasulullah? Is it in the praise of the religion? No, this line of poetry is in the praise of Ibn Muljam. When he writes this line of poetry in the praise of Ibn Muljam, he says over there, Ya darbatu min taqiyan ma arada biha illa liyabluga min dil arshi ridwana. That strike that Ibn Muljam he did was the strike of a pious individual who only wanted the pleasure of Allah. You find Bukhari is narrating from an individual like Imran ibn al-Hittan. So you find this argument that just because Bukhari narrates from Ikramah, it does not give precedence to Ikramah being an authentic narrator. And by the way, this discussion right now is an academic discussion. This discussion shouldn't prevent us from supporting others who are from different schools of thought. For example, when we look at the atrocities in Palestine and Gaza and different parts of the world, we shouldn't just think that, no, they do not believe in Ahlul Bayt in the way that we believe in them, thus will not support them. This isn't something which is in the seerah of Ahlul Bayt in that manner. But you find when it comes to the academic level, we need to establish what our belief system is. So you find in this manner, those individuals who would record opinions outside of this verse being about these 5 individuals, you find that they're questionable in their biographies. And they don't compare to the great companions of Rasulullah who would narrate that this ayat is about 5 individuals. But when you look at this verse, you find that one more point within this verse is that Allah, He is saying that rijs and impurity has been kept away from Ahlul Bayt. You know, when you look at the Arabic wording, it says, لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ. There is a difference between لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمْ and لِيُذْهِبَ مِنْكُمْ. You know, the word min, amongst its meanings, is for something to be a part of something. Husaynun minni wa ana min al-Husayn. That Hussein is a part of me and I am from Hussein. When this ayat, it uses the particle an and not min, it is showing that the rijs was never a part of Ahlul Bayt. But rather, rijs was always kept away from Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. That's why I say to those individuals who translated the Quran, whether it is Piqtal or Shakir or anyone else, that why is it that you say that remove impurities from Ahlul Bayt? But rather the reality of the translation is that Allah has kept impurities away from Ahlul Bayt. So you find in this regard, this point is seen within the ayat. But the final question to ask is that what is a rijs? You know, the word rijs is mentioned in 9 different places in the Quran. One of those places where it's mentioned is chapter 50, verse 9. And this chapter, this verse, it gives us an insight into rijs, because the rijs is anything which is detestable by Allah, anything which is sin, anything which Allah dislikes, it comes under the category of rijs. Allah within chapter 50, verse 9, He says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, that O you who believe, إنما الخمر والميسر والأنساب والأزلام رجس من عمل الشيطان. That O you who believe, wine, gambling, idolatry, playing the game of lots, which was something that would be done at that time, all of them are impurities. The Quran is showing that there are many different categories going on in this ayah: drinking, gambling, idolatry. All of these different things, they come under the category of rijs. But you find on top of that, there's another verse of the Quran. Chapter 6, verse 125. Within that verse, Allah, He says, فَمَنْ يُرِدُ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَهْدِيَ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. That whomsoever Allah wants to guide, He expands their breast. He opens their capacity to accept the truth of Islam. وَمَنْ يُرِدْ أَنْ يُضِلَّهُ يَجْعَلْ صَدْرَهُ ضَيِّقًا حَرَجًا كَأَنَّمَا يَصَعَّدُ فِي السَّمَاءِ. And the one whom Allah wants to misguide, Allah constricts the breast of that individual as if he is going through the sky in that manner. It is constricting. But then after that, the ayat, it continues. It says, كَذَلِكَ يَجْعَلُ اللَّهُ الرِّجْسَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. That Allah, He makes impurity, He brings a rijs upon those who are not believers. In other words, the rijs is seen as one of those things which is away from iman. And those individuals that Allah has kept away from rijs, you find only they will be at the highest level of faith and belief. It is only a person who has been kept away from a rijs by Allah who can say, لَوْ كُشِفَ لَهُمُ الْغِطَاءَ مَا أَزْدَدْتُ يَقِينًا. That if the veils are removed from my eyes, it wouldn't increase my certainty in the way that Amir al-Mu'mineen mentioned. So you find all of these different points, they come from this ayat of the Quran. They come from understanding the context of verses. And this is something that we see that Ahlul Bayt would do as well. You know, one of the things that Yazid did within his courtroom is that Yazid would use verses of the Quran out of context to show that he was an authority and Ahlul Bayt were in disfavor from Allah. You know, one of the verses that Yazid he mentions is he quotes the verse of the Quran, وَمَا أَصَابَكُم مِّن مُصِيبَةٍ فَبِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِيكُم. He looks at Imam Zainul Abidin and he says that there is no musibah or trial that comes upon man except that they earned it. Imam Zainul Abidin, he looks at Yazid and he says, this ayat wasn't about us Ahlul Bayt. Because this ayat is about those who are oppressors. This verse isn't about the oppressed. The verse which is about the oppressed is the verse that says, Ma asaba musibatun fil ard wala fi anfusikum illa fi kitabin min qabli an nabra'aha. That there is no musibah except that it is in the book which Allah will bring out from that book. Inna dhalika alallahi yasir, and indeed that is easy for Allah. So mankind, do not be sorrowful about what you lost and do not be happy about what you gain at an excessive level. You find the Imam over there, when he quotes this ayat in front of Yazid, he is showing, oh Yazid, you need to understand the context of an ayat. You cannot use a verse of the Quran and turn it against us. You know, in other words, those individuals that follow and they try to use the Quran to lower the position of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, these are the same tactics that Yazid ibn Muawiyah used. And you find that they're following within those same footsteps. But one of the most famous incidents where the Imam, he mentions the Quran, and in reality he mentions Ayat al-Tathir, is when they were within the marketplace in Sham. You know, when they were in that marketplace in Sham, it's stated that an elderly individual, he comes to Imam Zainul Abidin, and he says that, may Allah curse you. Imam Zainul Abidin says, oh man, have you ever read the Quran? The man says, yes, I've read the Quran. The Imam says, هَلْ قَرَأْتَ الْآيَةَ, that have you read the verse, قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. That have you read the verse of the Quran that I ask for nothing except love for my progeny? The man says, Na'am, yes. The Imam says, we are that qurba. Then after that, the Imam recites another verse of the Quran, وَآتِ ذَا الْقُرْبَ حَقَّهُ, that give the right towards the kinfolk. The man, he says, I've read this ayat. The Imam says, we are that qurba, that family. Then the Imam, he recites the verse of the Quran that give 1/5 towards Allah and His messengers and that qurba. The Imam says, we are that family. But this ayat which we analyze tonight, then the Imam, he recites this ayat and he says, oh man, have you read the verse of the Quran? إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ رِجْسَ أَهْلِ الْبَيْتِ. The man says, yes, I have read that verse. The Imam says that we are that Ahlul Bayt. That what day had come upon the family of Rasulullah, that people, they would come, they would throw stones on the family of Rasulullah in the marketplace of Sham. And one individual would come and he would pour boiling water on Imam Zainul Abidin. and the turban of Imam Zainul Abidin would catch on fire at that moment. You know, after this musibah, Ahlul Bayt, they entered the court of Sham. And I've narrated what happened when they entered the court of Sham. You know, after that incident in the courtroom, you find that they were sentenced to prison. You know, within that prison, it stated that there was a daughter of Imam al-Hussein who would cry within that prison. And when she would cry, the guards, they would come and they would say that, why is she crying? And they would say that she cries because she misses her father. You know, this guard, he takes this report to Yazid. Yazid, he says, then let's send her father. He says, oh Yazid, what do you mean let's send her father? This is the daughter of Hussein. At that moment, Yazid, he commands that man that put the head of Hussein in a bowl and cover that bowl. It stated that that bowl was brought before that girl. The moment she sees it, she uncovers that bowl and she sees the cut head of her father. And as she's looking at the cut head of her father, she says, oh father, who cut this neck of yours? And oh father, after you, we were taken as captives. Oh father, after you, they snatched my earrings, oh father. In this manner, as she cries, holding the head of her father, it stated a point it comes, she falls upon the ground. You know, as all of the women, they're going towards that girl, Imam Zainul Abidin, he says, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. You know, there's something which is narrated about that moment when Sayyida Zainab would give ghusl to the body of Sakina. You know, there were certain members of Ahlul Bayt that when they would give ghusl towards their deceased, they would begin to cry and they would break down. You know the narration that when Amir al-Mu'mineen was giving ghusl to the body of Fatima al-Zahra, a point it came when Ali ibn Abi Talib falls upon the ground and Ayman says that, oh Ali, why do you cry? Amir al-Mu'mineen says, oh Ayman, Fatima didn't tell me, oh Ayman, that the hand of Amir al-Mu'mineen went across the broken rib of Zahra. You know, another person who would begin to cry as he was giving the ghusl is when Imam al-Baqir would give ghusl towards his father, Imam Zainul Abidin. And he would notice that there are marks on the back of Imam Zainul Abidin. He would begin to cry at that moment. But I bring you towards this narration. It stated in one riwayah that there was a lady of Sham who was helping Sayyida Zainab at that moment. And that lady, as she was helping Sayyida Zainab, she says, oh Zainab, did this girl have a disease? Sayyida Zainab says, what do you mean? She says that there are blue marks all over the body of this girl. Sayyida Zainab says, no, there was no illness, but rather these are those marks when the army of Umar bin Saad and Yazid, they would go towards that girl. They would strike her when she would cry for her father. You know, a point after that it came when Ahlul Bayt were freed from that prison. When they were freed from that prison, Sayyida Zainab, she said, oh Yazid, give us a house to mourn in, for these women have not been able to mourn. And oh Yazid, all of those items which have been taken, return those items towards us. You know, it stated that they set a house for Ahlul Bayt over there. And as Ahlul Bayt are mourning within that house, it stated a flag was returned to the women of Ahlul Bayt. When that flag it came, all of the women, they began to say, Wa Abbasa. After that, it stated that there were 2 earrings which came back. when those earrings they came, all of the women would look towards the Rabab. But the one who would wear those earrings wasn't with them anymore. Then after that, the final narration, it stated that one ring was brought. You know which ring this was? There was an individual by the name of Bajdal, and he says that on the day of Ashura, everyone was looting the body of Hussein. And as they were looting the body of Hussein, somebody would take the shirt of Hussein and somebody would take the turban of Hussein. When I would look towards Hussein, I would see that there was a ring on the hand of Hussein. So when I went towards his body, I tried to pull that ring, but that ring wouldn't come off. You know what that man, he says that he did at that moment? He says that as the ring wasn't coming off the finger of Hussein, I took my dagger, the hand of Hussein. I began to cut the finger of Hussein at that moment. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين سيعلم الذين ظلموا أيا منقلب ينقلبون. ماتم حسين.
Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein. 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 Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. बाजार के मंजर को और अपने खुले सर को भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को बाजार के मंजर को और अपने खुले सर को भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को और अपने खुले सर को भूली नहीं मैं अपने बंदे हाथों को बीमार के जेवर को भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को है अपने बंदे हाथों को बीमार के जेवर को भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को और अपने खुले सर को भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को और अपने खुले सर को भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को और अपने खुले सर को भूली नहीं मैं उठती हुई आंधी को, वहशत को, बयाबां को, छुपते हुए सूरज को, तारीकी को, मैदान को, चलते हुए खंजर को, नेज़े पे तेरे सर को, भूली नहीं मैं बाजार मंजर को, और हाय उठती हुई आंधी को, वहशत को, बयाबां को, छुपते हुए सूरज को, तारीकी को, मैदान को, चलते हुए खंजर को, नेज़े पे तेरे सर को, भूली नहीं मैं बाज़ार के मंजर को, सर को, भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के को, मासूम सकीना को, बढ़ते हुए नेज़ों को, रिसते हुए गालों को, बेरहम तमाचों को, रिसते हुए कानों को, खिंचते हुए गौहर को, भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को, खुले सर को, भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को, और अपने खुले सर को, भूली नहीं मैं लहराते हुए नेज़ा, हाय शिमर का वो बढ़ना, आके मेरे पीछे, हर बीबी का वो छुपना, शोलों में गिरे घर को, लुटती हुई चादर को, भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को, खुले सर को, भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को, और अपने खुले सर को, भूली नहीं मैं जिस रात में तन्हा थी, उस रात के ढलने को, टूटे हुए नेज़े को, उस रात के पहरे को, बच्चों के सिसकने को, और खाक के बिस्तर को, भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को, भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर और अपने खुले सर को, याद आता है एक माँ का वो खाक में धस जाना, और आग के शोलों में वो माँ का झुलस जाना, जलते हुए झूले से लिपटी हुई मादर को, भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को, और खुले सर को, भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को, और अपने खुले सर को, भूली हाय अपने बंदे हाथों को, बीमार के जेवर को, भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को, और अपने खुले सर को, भूली